Jesus is speaking to the communities living around the Sea of Galilee, saying, look at all the life around you. It is radiant, it is bursting. The fact that there is life, and is vibrant, is miraculous. And with that, Jesus takes on, literally, incarnates the wisdom of God and says, come unto me. Probably the sweetest, I think maybe sweetest thing in the entire scripture. Come unto me, all you who are stressed, anxiety-ridden, worried. I will take it upon me, and I will give you rest. To celebrate wisdom of God. There is God, and there is life, and it is vibrant and alive. It's miraculous. I figured that as human beings, one of the gifts that we are given that is unique is that of creativity and imagination, thinking of something in the future and acting upon it. So I wrote a story of this day. Now, I've never done this before. I'm going to tell you a story. Everybody in the neighborhood knows Frank. Middle-aged guy, kind of short, cheap-looking haircut. The guy who talks to birds and dogs and squirrels, but a lot to birds. Fran lives in that one house on the block. It's a ramshack modular home that seems to have avoided at least even the slightest symptom of home improvement bug. And even though Fran seems to spend a lot of his time outside, in the yard, precious little gets done. We have become used to him. But every so often, when a new family moves in, they're a bit scandalized. Kids are initially frightened of Fran, parents equally afraid, or just a little ticked because Fran has implied that their dog was their equal. We tell the new people, the ones who are scandalized, that Fran is harmless, nutty, yes, giving the birds a piece of his mind. He does not bother us, and we do not bother each other. We stay in our homes and in our backyards. We are successful, self-made, conqueror people. We've invested a lot in our homes to keep them warm inside when it is cold out and cool inside when it is hot out. We've invested in our education, in our profession, to maintain like-minded communities without much disagreement. We've invested in our gardens, neat little parcels of nature conforming to our desires. Even Fran's parcel of land is not allowed to go unchecked entirely. His front lawn, when it becomes an eyesore, one of us rides a mower over it with a broad smile, friendly wave, and turn our back on him and say goodbye. In September is when the rumor starts. It's like any rumor. Has no author, no original source. Just suddenly, one day, Jimmy Krawczyk is shoveling his salad into his mouth, and instead of telling his dad for the umpteenth time how he despises kale, Jimmy says instead, Fran is bleeding. And so his other dad yells from the kitchen, maybe they should call an ambulance. And Jimmy, who's only 12, but with an eye roll of a teenager, snorts, not like that. It's not an emergency. Fran just bleeds. He showed me. And unlike many other rumors, this one is true. When we walk our dogs, we try to get them to do their business in Fran's lawn, because it allows us time for small talk, and Fran loves to talk, to spend time with us. He likes to talk about his hands. And though he has them bandaged with rags, the bright corona of blood seeps through. We joke that he needs a better doctor. Fran says, I have a great physician. She seems to think is also humorous. We pick up our business, and we leave confused. A month goes by. Fran still bleeds. We don't know what to do. Can you force a neighbor in a non-emergency situation to go to the hospital? I think even our lawyers among us would be a little bit stumped. So we do the thing we know. We gather, get together in the neighborhood association. We reserve the meeting room at New Seasons. Somebody brings donuts. We drink decaf, and we wait for Fran to arrive. When Fran comes in, we notice that in his wake are droplets of blood on the gray flecked linoleum, smears of the red surrounded by the muddy footprints of his ratty tennis shoes. We grit our teeth and steel ourselves for confrontation. Someone asks if he would like a donut. He would, a powdered one. And by instinct, we form a jagged circle around Fran, this middle-aged man wearing a ragged t-shirt that reminds us of hundreds of miles away the dominance of the Broncos in 1991. His worn khakis are ripped at the knee and muddy at the cuffs, and it appears that his pants are held up by a rope. Everyone is unnerved by the silence, except that is for Fran, who is mesmerized by the donut, and we watch Fran reverently eat as he sucks the powdered sugar from his fingertips, one by one. And when he looks up, our general nervousness is acute. Dr. Arroyo speaks first in a very low, comforting voice. Fran, we need to talk about your hands. Oh, Fran asks rightly, the stigmata. The what? We say. And Fran gets a little resigned and a little sad. And he says, from now on, let no one make trouble for me, for I carry the marks of Jesus branded on my body. Silence. Galatians? Anybody? We think it might be somewhere in the back of the Bible. But we're taken aback by the mention of religion or the Bible in a public meeting room on a Wednesday. And to tell the truth, we have not thought about God and us being the hands and feet of God, literally, in a maybe ever or in a very long time. We do go to church. Our children receive excellent education in church school as we sit through the services too often thinking about the errands to do for the week. We, at coffee hour, we greet those who we know, and we wave in the parking lot to those we don't really know, but we don't offer this explanation. Instead, we stand there in an exceptionally beige room with donuts and a mug of decaf, and we gape at Fran. We discover a stranger in our midst. Mike Lee steps out. Listen, buddy, with exasperation in his voice. This has nothing to do with religion. This is just about keeping the neighborhood nice. And as Mike speaks, he tugs at Fran's sleeve to get Fran's attention at the old giveaway t-shirt, and it starts coming apart at the shoulder seam. Mike Lee steps back, seemingly horrified at what he has done, but Fran smiles down at that tug. I apologize for any offense, Fran testifies. But trying to live the life I am called to. The life of Christ in poverty and penance. In a friendly tone. In fact, says Fran, I happen to think it's the life that you're called to too. And with that, he slips his t-shirt over his head and neatly folds it and gives it to Michael. The rest is going to happen really quickly, so none of us can react. Fran steps out of his shoes, revealing feet that are much cleaner than we would have suspect, bandaged just like his hands. And then he unties the rope pulling his pants, and they pool around his ankles. And we stare as he steps out of them. Fran folds them. A ritual action. Then picking up his shoes, he stacks them on top of the t-shirt and places them in Mike Lee's outstretched arms. Forgive me, brother, but these are all I have to make amends. Standing there naked, except for the bandages, and a piece of medical gauze taped to his right side, naked, in the middle of the meeting room in New Seasons. Instead of being embarrassed, Fran is completely at peace. I can't, Mike Lee's voice trails off, and it is Mike who is embarrassed, casting his eyes among the group, or for the acknowledgement from them that he did not want or ask for this gift. And we look back at him with nothing to offer. It's all right, Fran straightens up and pushes his shoulders back. Now, if you don't mind, I have a friend coming over for dinner. You should come too. And I know that I will see you again. And with that, he turns, his bare feet squeaking on the floor, through the market, into the evening air, nude. And it's as if this crackling electricity is in the center of our circle. It's as if we can smell differently. Perhaps the sense is that the world has just shifted, it's 2 inches to the left. For some of us, it feels like a problem of size, as if Fran's departure into the night suddenly reminds us of how small our gathered circle is. And we're inspired to move beyond nice, beyond our problems to bigger problems, to a place of deep love and deep community. We're ready to take on the work of welcome and friendship and worship. That Saturday, Al Standish will confront a local politician for holding back on climate warming policies. Pastor Nikki will risk being vulnerable in her next Sunday sermon to model courageous living. A week later, circling the Toyota parking lot, Jimmy Karchik's 2 dads will suddenly question why, if their other 2 cars are running perfectly fine, do they need to buy another? And they will leave that parking lot without giving any new payment on a new model. 2 weeks after that, Carla Bersher will surprise the 10th, who sits alone by the printer, by calling him by name and asking about his weekend and offering him coffee, fresh from the pot. Mere days after that, Tom Leesman will double the recipe for the kids' favorite casserole, and when it is done, he will pack both the kids and the casserole into their car and drive downtown to the park and have dinner with several homeless families who he passes on its benches every day on his way to work. A new family will move into the neighborhood, and they will start up a conversation with Mike Lee about the weird guy in the ugly house. And Mike Lee will snap back. He's the only one of us who is free. And then he will get up off his knees because he's been making weeds and will wipe the sweat up off of his upper lip. Searching for words sheepishly, he will say, I mean, he is wise. He just drove him. Dr. Pierce will pull her burgundy Jeep into the driveway and lean out of the window. "Mike," she will say, "why are you weeding my lawn?" But all of that will come later. The gradual fruit of some seed maturing in us slowly. In the meantime, we are all standing together, silent, in the meeting room. Silent as night has fallen, aware of the blackness outside, of the world, rendered in shades of gray, deep purples. Life seems more elusive and more radiantly real than it did 15 minutes ago. Mike Lee, still holding the neat bundle of Brand's clothes, walks out without talking. We trickle in twos and threes into the night that embraces us, like an enthusiastic relative whose name we don't remember. In a parking lot, in hushed tones, we reclaim our cars. And that night, for the first time since we have had that central air installed, we sleep with the windows open to the breeze. We want to hear prophecy in the wind, feel the change in weather. Getting up to use the restroom at 2 a.m, we find our house infused with familiarity, steeped in mystery, possibility, well-known objects huddled in conspiracy either for or against us. And we notice our breath. We know that we are breathing in grace. And we choose to breathe out gratitude. We breathe in. And we breathe out. Returning to bed, pulling the sheets in a practiced motion, in the deep blackness of all the earthly potency of a freshly uncovered soil, we reach out to God across that sea. We find God already smiling back at us in the dark.